Hello there, Sully here, the retired tanker yanker. Welcome to Transitions. Remember to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and be sure to like and share this video. I am aiming this video at my fellow creators out there, especially us small creators who are not yet monetized and are trying to get there. And I want to convey some of the fears that I've been hearing from other creators and trying to see how they will affect the growth of my channel and maybe your channel as I strive to make this a commercial venture. Well, unless you've been living under a rock somewhere, you know by now that there are some rules coming into effect on January 1st of 2020 which will affect YouTube creators. A lot of people are expecting a chaos grenade to detonate and do a lot of damage, and quite frankly I happen to be one. Well, it seems that the federal government is getting involved in our YouTube universe. Now, for maybe the past, I don't know how many years, there's been a law on the book called COPPA, which stands for the Child Online Privacy Protection Act. It exists to protect children under the age of 13 from having their personal information accessed without the express consent of their parents or guardians or person in loco parentis. And in principle, it's a good law. But I do see potential for chaos as applied to the YouTube universe. And you and I as a creator, if we violate this law, we could face a fine of more than $42,000. And I don't have that kind of money. I don't know about you. It seems that YouTube had been lax in enforcing COPPA across its platform. And they were fined by the FCC. I think they agreed to pay a fine of about $170 million. And as a result of this fine and as a result of this agreement with the FCC, YouTube has been forced to make certain changes in its algorithm and in its practices. You know, YouTube does rely on advertising for its revenue, for its continued existence. And those of us who are creators, especially those of us who are not monetized and hope to become monetized one day, but there are creators out there who actually make their living simply by making YouTube videos. And YouTube's algorithm uses cookies to track who views what videos, and they try to tailor the advertising to that to customize it. And children make up a very large demographic on the YouTube universe. You know, there's a lot of content aimed at children, and actually kids under the age of 13, some of them, the only video they ever watch is on YouTube. Advertisers love to target children. We've known that from the beginning. Anybody who's ever seen a commercial for sugar-laden breakfast cereals or candy or certain toys, we know that advertisers love to target children. So, because the YouTube algo collects these cookies, they want to fine-tune the advertising. They're trying to get ad preferences, and according to COPPA, if your audience is under the age of 13, you are not allowed to collect information on that audience without the express consent of their parents. So as a creator, we have to designate our content as whether or not it's intended for kids or not intended for kids. Now, my channel, of course, is aimed at an older audience. And I have chosen in my channel settings to designate that my content is not intended for children. But is that the end of it? I really don't know, and I'm really confused. YouTube processes the video, and it's the algo that determines whether or not the video has content which would steer towards children. We have the initial groups, the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, and the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, and they're monitoring YouTube videos, and they don't necessarily use an algo. They might actually have actual Homo sapiens looking at the videos to determine the content. These NI, or natural intelligence entities, are the ones that get to determine whether or not my content is geared towards children, regardless of the setting I use. Well, there is no cartoons in my videos, there's no toys, I don't have children's songs or songs that might appeal to children. I do have music, of course. I make music videos. I sing, I play the guitar, And, you know, some of it is folk music, and there's a lot of people that would like their children to listen to folk music out there. Okay. But I don't have any games. I don't really have child-oriented content. That doesn't mean that there aren't children under the age of 13 who could view my videos. I doubt it highly because there aren't a whole lot of people out there viewing my content. You know, I hope that changes, and maybe you can share this video and maybe let people know about it. But I have lost some subscribers lately too, which I think is the algo's doing. I think they look at certain things. And I think that there's a lot of creators who are just closing down their channel and leaving YouTube altogether. And, you know, it might be costing me subscribers, people taking down their channel. But, you know, when you only have around 100 subscribers and lose them, that's critical. If you have 100,000 subscribers and you lose 100 in a day, that's not going to cost you money, or a lot of money. But I'm not making any money yet, and that's where I want to be. So, what exactly is kids content anyway? Well, according to YouTube, they determine such content using the following parameters. And this is what you have to understand and decide if you are going to designate your videos as whether they are intended for children or not intended for children. First of all, what is the subject matter of your video? Whether or not children are your intended audience. Whether the video includes child actors or models. Whether the video includes characters, celebrities, or toys that appeal to children, including animated characters or cartoon figures. Whether the language of the video is intended for children to understand. Whether the video includes activities that appeal to children. And whether the video includes songs, stories, or poems that appeal to children. Okay, this has a lot of creators worried, and many fear that they're going to lose revenue because their content might contain games or toys or cartoons or other content which would be considered child-friendly. Now, my target demographic it doesn't seem to be clear. I am trying to go after truck drivers, of course, but also fans of folk music and, you know, just people who are interested in seeing what this retired old tanker yanker is doing with his life these days. Now, as I said, part of my target demographic is truck drivers, and while they tend to be a bit childish, they are not children. They are adults. And I also don't want to dumb down my content, you know, because I want to believe that my audience has a reading or a comprehension level that is above an 8th grade level. You know what I mean? Now, in theory, YouTube has always been subject to COPPA, but in light of the recent FTC determination, these restrictions take on a new urgency. Now, under the terms of the settlement, and this is a quote here, YouTube is required to develop, implement, and maintain a system for channel owners to designate whether the content on the YouTube service is directed to children. And now, under the system that YouTube has come up with, creators who strictly make children's content can also have their entire channel designated as either for children or do it a la carte as they post a video, designate whether the video is intended for children or not intended for children. And once a video is labeled as kids content, all personalized ads will be shut off, replaced with contextualized advertising based on the video itself. But, and this is a big but, the consequences for not labeling a video as child-directed could be even more severe. In its September order, the Federal Trade Commission made it clear that it could sue individual channel owners who abuse the labeling system. That means if you are trying to target kids, so you might make a video and label it as intended for children, and then you're bombarding it with stuff that really isn't child-friendly, well, I mean, whatever the Federal Trade Commission determines to be abuse, you know, these lawsuits will fall entirely on channel owners rather than on YouTube itself, though. And under the settlement, YouTube's responsibility is simply to maintain the system and provide ongoing data updates. Now, if the FTC does take action against channel owners, and it's likely to be both selective and heavy-handed, it's the federal government's So it's a small agency. It doesn't employ nearly enough staffers to tackle every feature that COPPA has. There's going to be failures. This is the chaos grenade. Now, Federal Trade Commission Chairman Joe Simmons has repeatedly called for more money from the government to address the staff shortage at the Federal Trade Commission so that they can address these COPPA issues. But very likely that money is going to come from fines levied, and, you know, FTC is seeking $42,000 for each mislabeled video, and monetary damages could grow to a staggering scale. I mean, that's the actual truth. Now, YouTube is also pledged to use machine learning and flagging algorithms to locate child-directed videos that may have been mislabeled. And you and I as a creator will not be able to appeal these decisions. But according to YouTube's spokesman, unnamed, they will be listening to feedback. But if these algorithms aren't effective, YouTube could stop using them entirely, and there will be no feedback, there will be no threat, there will be no consequences from the Federal Trade Commission for doing so. That'll leave you and I as a creator solely accountable and open to potentially life-altering fines from the government. Now, I don't know if I like the idea of using an algorithm to do this, but YouTube uses algorithms all the time, and they have experience. But can a human actually reason with artificial intelligence? Remember that there are flaws in the algorithm. It has no way of knowing that it is a flaw, and the error becomes not only redundant, it becomes exponential. And this is where the fear of creators lies. Now, Arielle Johnson, who was a counsel for a child advocacy group called Common Sense, weighed in on this issue. And it is her opinion, or maybe the opinion of Common Sense, that COPPA just doesn't go far enough. On the online magazine The Verge, Johnson said, and this is a quote, "It would be certainly more helpful for protecting children and being something that the Federal Trade Commission could enforce and something that families could rely upon as trustworthy if YouTube was taking a bigger role and helping to identify content." In other words, the group wants YouTube to be a bit more transparent about the consequences and about the rules. They want to be more transparent. They want them to be more transparent with the creators. And with that, I entirely agree. So, should I be worried? Maybe I should be. I'm thinking that now it might take even longer than I had counted on for my channel to become monetized, or maybe this could work in my favor. I don't know. But I'm going on record right now that my target audience is in fact adults, and adults over the age of 18. Definitely not for the kiddies. Although I am careful not to allow a lot of profanity, but it does slip in from time to time. Hey, I'm dealing with truck drivers. My content is specifically intended for a slightly more mature adult audience. The kids are welcome, but if you're younger than 13, I hope you're at least getting your parents' consent and they know that you're watching Sully the Retired Tanker Yanker's channel, you're watching Transitions, and you want to see what's going to happen to you when you hit your 60s and have to retire. I hope that your parents are monitoring what you're doing. And if you're a parent who has created an account for your children, well, I hope that you are at least a bit more vigilant. And if your child under the age of 13 is creating, I hope you are supervising that content. Maybe the YouTube algo, or maybe the FTC, or maybe the FCC might find content in my videos which might be considered attractive to children. Well, if I become monetized soon, and I really hope I do, then maybe I'll have to worry about it then. But until then, there's no advertising attached to my videos. But let me tell you what is really burning my ass, and that is censorship. For as long as I can remember, YouTube has allowed a very loose rein in content. The algo determines what is appropriate for the platform. And yes, you hear a lot of profanity, but there's no nudity or obscenity. Okay, if you don't like that, if you're coming here looking for dirty pictures, and you don't find it, go somewhere else. There's plenty of sites on the internet for that. And no one is forcing you to watch YouTube. It's a choice. And by the same thing, nobody forces you to watch obscenity or dirty movies or pornographic movies or pornographic photos online. I mean, nobody's forcing you to do that. That's a choice. If you're an adult, if you're of legal age, hey, if it makes you happy, knock yourself out. Personally, I don't think there's anything more boring than watching two other people making love, but that's just me. If it's a turn off, then turn it off. Real simple. But I don't like the idea of having a third party judging my content and using subjective concepts to decide what my content is or isn't. And I especially don't like an algorithm doing it. And this algorithm is going to decide what I am thinking, even though it doesn't know what I'm thinking. And it's going to decide whether this content is intended for a particular audience or not. And this algorithm is going to levy a fine because it doesn't like the way that my content fits into their algorithm. If I cross this arbitrary line, well, this retired tanker yanker has a real problem with that. Algorithm, you don't know what's in my mind. Your intelligence is artificial. Mine is natural. I have intelligence which I have gained through experience and observation. Okay? And I don't need some mathematical quantitative to do my thinking for me. I am too old for that nonsense. That is censorship, and censorship is un-American. So, for the record, my content is not specifically intended for kids. There, I've said it. For transitions, this is Sully, the retired tanker yanker. Safe and happy travels.